Welcome to Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to give you our full recap of the Sergey Kovalev Andre Ward fight, which happened this past Saturday on pay-per-view. Now, you've probably seen our initial reaction, which is us kind of full of emotion. I'm really not that emotional of a guy, but it was as emotional as I get. It was a good fight. It was a very good fight, and we got our initial thoughts out on that one. In this particular video, we're going to really break down what happened in the ring and compare it to our pre-fight videos that we made prognosticating what we thought was going to happen.
That's right.
And before we do that, I have to send a shout out to my man Daniel Harris, who gave us these beautiful fight t-shirts. The slogan is, "What is your fight?" And our fight is to teach you about the fight game. So we'll put a link to these really nice shirts down in the description below so you can get one too and tell everybody what your fight is. On to the recap. Now, we did briefly go over the undercard of that fight, of the fight, and it went pretty much how we went, with the exception of Gvozdyk stopping Isaac Chilemba, which was the first time he had been stopped. But so you have to shout out to him. Even though it was an injury, it still counts as a stoppage.
That's right.
He was unable to continue, so that is a TKO win for Gvozdyk. And he was winning the fight up to that point anyway.
That's right.
So we're not going to talk too much about the undercard, but we will reference it later on as we get into the result of the main event. Take it away, Rob.
All right. So we have pretty much had two highly skilled, great boxers in the ring. We have Andre Ward, who Olympic gold medalist, hasn't lost since he was 12. The former king of the 168-pound super middleweight division versus arguably the king of the light heavyweight division. But we all know Adonis Stevenson is the lineal champ.
Yeah, so to keep that clear, we'll say that he was the best fighter in the division, just not the champ.
Right. Stevenson has the lineal and the WBC belt.
And Kovalev had everything else.
Exactly. So, what were we expecting? We were expecting a very, not say high action, but high level chess matches between two masters of their craft.
Yes, we told you in all of the videos leading up to this fight that this was going to be a thinking man's fight, and it was going to come down to who could utilize their jab and implement their game plan the best.
Now what we got was exactly that. Kovalev imposed his will early. He started to catch Andre Ward coming in as Andre Ward was trying to feel him out. You know, they started off a little slow. Andre Ward got staggered by a jab
in the first round.
That woke Andre Ward up a little bit. And then in the second round, Andre Ward suffered his first knockdown since the Darnell Boone fight.
Yes, 11 years ago. With
the 1-2. The 2 missed, and he was going to counter with his own right, but because Kovalev was in the process of throwing his 2 after his right hand after the jab, his got there first. He caught Andre Ward off balance. He did hurt him, but Andre Ward got right back up, made it through the round, and then we go into the rest of the fight. Now keep in mind, that's just a knockdown. A knockdown is an extra point.
In that round only.
That round. So going forward, we have to judge each round individually. Yes. Granted, you can feel momentum in how they perform,
but that still only encapsulates 3 minutes at a time.
Exactly.
So Kovalev at this point, from the first 2 rounds, is up. And this fight, like we said, was a thinking man's fight. So much so that most of the rounds was only decided by 1 or 2 punches between both guys. And the only real definitive round winner was the knockdown in round 2 by Sergey Kovalev. That's how highly and evenly matched these men were. We really have to appreciate the skill that we saw on Saturday night. And going into the third, Ward, in what is either an adjustment or a great ability to stick to his game plan, began circling to his right, like we said he would in our preview videos. Go back and watch those. I'm gonna tell you guys, I was kind of low-key obsessed with this fight. I was really excited about it. I watched just about every fight from both guys. I watched their interviews. I watched their training. I listened to what they were saying to get the psychology of what I thought was going to happen in the ring. That's why you got 3 really in-depth videos on how each guy could win. And then we did one of our longer preview videos than we're used to doing because there was so much to look for with these guys. Sergey Kovalev was so much more than power. And Andre Ward, we knew what he brought to the table, but there were questions on whether or not he would be able to dig deep if he was in the hole. Now, some of you may not remember, but if you watch the Carl Froch fight, he was winning that fight comfortably, but had to fight Froch off because he came on like a demon in the last third of that fight.
And if I'm not mistaken, he also had a injured hand.
Yes, he did injure his hand in that fight. I believe it was his left hand, the one that he uses the most.
That's right.
So, if you are very familiar with Ward, you already knew that he had it in him. But he reminded us on Saturday night that you are not just going to walk all over him.
Yes. To get up from a knockdown against such a dangerous puncher like Kovalev says a lot, not only about his chin, but about his mental makeup and his fortitude to keep on applying his plan, adjusting, and keeping his head in the fight. Because if you watch a lot of fights with Kovalev, once he knocks you down or hits you flush, you can see how that strategy changes. And we all know Tyson said everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Andre Ward got hit in the mouth and stuck to his plan.
So you got to give Andre Ward a lot of credit for doing exactly that and he moved intelligently, and at times he came at Kovalev. He got inside his that long reach of his, and if you watching the third round, he went straight to Kovalev, both hands up, got in his chest. Now, granted, Kovalev was trying to throw some punches, but he pushed him back to the ropes. They almost fell. But the point of that was to let Kovalev know, I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm just as strong at the start as I am now. And you can see how he did not back off.
Yeah, that was big on a psychological aspect. And it let Kovalev know that I'm really going to have to work to put you down. And Kovalev was game for the task. He never stopped trying. Even when Andre started implementing his game plan a little bit better, Kovalev said, hey, it's only a matter of time. I just got to hit you one more good time. And so he kept trying. Unfortunately, he began to forget to cut the ring off. And he implemented something that we told you he would have to do and he was going to do in our pre-fight videos, which was tie Ward up as soon as they got on the inside. So like Rob said, Ward begins to rush Kovalev, but Kovalev stopped him by putting him in that headlock. And then once that started to not be as effective, he started utilizing double underhooks in addition to the headlock to keep Ward from being able to hit him.
And not only that, he was being forced to push Andre Ward against the ropes. Now, Kovalev was as strong, if not stronger, or tried to use that strength to get Ward off of him. So he pushed him against the ropes to stop the action. The difference is, once they're on the inside and he's trying to tie Ward up, Ward would try to get a hand or two free, jockey for position, and make sure he continue to go to the body, throw over the top, something to fight on the inside. And that's exactly what he did. And not only was he not cutting off the ring, and he didn't just slow down because of his own conditioning, But as Teddy Atlas would say, he was putting water in the basement.
Oh, there was a lot of water getting into that basement.
Because Andre Ward was jabbing consistently to the body, and Kovalev did some very good jabbing to the body as well.
Yes.
We can't discount his own work to the body, but he did most of his from the outside.
Right.
Andre Ward did his from the inside out. And not only were there just jabs to set up a punch, but upstairs, if you watch both of them, they threw some very good power jabs, which takes a lot of air out the tires. And then when they're on the outside, you see Andre Ward start to slip in those hooks to the body. I think he hit Kovalev with one good hook, where you can actually see on Kovalev's face how much he disliked that punch.
Yeah. The one that took note for me the most was in the 5th round, when we talked about how Andre Ward had to keep his angle by stepping off to Kovalev's right, because when he gets that headlock, it would be easy for him to break it. It happened in round 5. Ward gets in on the inside. Kovalev gets him in the headlock like this. But Ward spins around and launches a left hook right there to the breadbasket of Kovalev. And Kovalev bent over a little bit and backed up. It was like, hey, you're not going to do that to me again. And that was one of the keys that we said for both guys to be successful. Kovalev had to negate that from happening, and Ward had to make it happen.
That's right.
And so as the fight started to go on, Kovalev like Rob said, that water in the basement started to take effect. And he was less and less able to hold Ward off of him. So Ward began to work the body even more. He began to launch a lot of hooks, left hooks, and looping right hands to finish most of the exchanges. Ward was the one who was finishing a lot of the exchanges. And when Kovalev was at distance, he did a great job of timing Ward so he would not be able to just rush in like he had started doing in the 3rd round. Like I said, these guys were very high level, and most of the rounds were decided by just a punch or two.
That's right.
In every round. So you really had to be looking at what was going on, because a lot of times they were winning off of one hard jab or a couple of hard body punches in the case of Ward. So I say that to say this. Those are two of the most overlooked aspects of the boxing game that really played a difference in how this fight played out. A lot of people say, oh, the jab is the most important punch in boxing, but they only think of it as a setup punch. The jab, if used correctly, like you saw from these two gentlemen, can be one of the most well-rounded punches in your arsenal if you know how to use it.
And these two guys have two of the best jabs in boxing right now.
Yes. And like we said, even though Kovalev doesn't change the speed, he feints it excellently, and he has great timing on it, because you saw him catch Ward coming in a lot. Ward's lead left hook was almost inconsequential in this fight. He was able to land it once he got on the inside, but he was never able to cork Kovalev with a lead left hook from the outside, because every time he did it, bam, Kovalev hit him with a jab.
And again, that speaks to the mental capacity of Kovalev, because to start feeling those body shots and say, you're not going to deter me, I'm going to keep coming forward, I'm going to continue to put pressure on you, says a lot to who he is as a fighter.
Yes. You got to give him props for that, because a lot of guys would have been like, yo, I put this guy down, I thought I had him out, he's still coming, and he's coming hard. What else do I have left? And that was one of the questions I had of Kovalev. If he was unable to finish or hurt Ward, what would he do? We got our answer. He's going to keep daggone trying to hurt you. He earned the name of the Crusher. He may not have been able to crush Andre Ward, but he let Andre Ward know, I'm for real, and you're not just going to run in on me like you did everybody else.
That's right.
So we get later on into the fight, and like we said, Ward is starting to land a lot more to the body. And what the point I was making earlier, as far as the jab and the body punching, a lot of judges and fans have really gotten used to the outside game.
Mm-hmm.
They are used to seeing the guys look pretty from the outside, laying pot shots and things like that. They're not used to those dirty, gritty fights that you used to see back in the 30s, 40s, the early 1910s, even up to like the 60s and 70s, where guys were really on the inside, jockeying for position, throwing nasty body shots, creating angles, and that's what we saw on Saturday night. I told one of the guys that was that had commented on our video, he was like, hey, he was like, how do you see this fight playing out? I was like, it's gonna look like an old school, like Jack Johnson type of fight, where you see one of these guys on the inside ripping body shots, and that's what we got. Now, it was a tremendous rally from Ward because after 6 rounds, he was probably down significantly. And he won a majority of the late rounds. And that speaks a lot to a guy that was facing probably his best challenge thus far. He rose to the occasion. Both guys rose to the occasion and were able to give you their best on Saturday night. And we can't overlook that.
Now, at the end of the fight, we got scores across the board, a unanimous decision, 114 to 113, which means Ward won 7 rounds to Kovalev's 5, but Kovalev had the knockdown, so it wasn't 115 to 113, it was 114 to 113.
Yes, the extra points still counted.
Now, regardless of who you thought won, it was a close fight. One swing round, and there were several in this fight.
Just about all of them. Like I said, the only real definitive.
It was 4 rounds that I think were truly definitive.
I only saw one, and that was the second round where he knocked him down.
I saw 4, 2 to Ward, 2 to Kovalev. Everything else was it could go either way.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, one swing round or the other,
and you get a different score.
That's right, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you thought Kovalev won at the end, hey, you're probably right. That's your view.
Right.
If you thought Ward won, again, trust it. That's the view. It wasn't wide. Had I heard anything that said 117 and 111, then I might have had an issue.
Yeah.
Or even 116 or whatever. I would have probably had an issue.
Well, I could go with a 116 score because, like we said, all these were swing rounds. 1 or 2 swing rounds the other way, the other guy wins. That's just another extra round. But if you give 2 to 3 to 4 extra rounds, like if you got it 10 rounds to 2 for either guy, that's a bit far-fetched.
Now, I don't know if you looked online, but we looked at the scorecards. They came out with the exact same score, but 5 different rounds where they disagreed, which means it was a highly subjective fight.
And you have to remember, scoring is subjective.
Also, these judges, yes, they were all American. Please take that out of your mind because this is not a home cooking decision. Everyone in the U.S. knows who Kovalev is.
Yeah.
Probably even more so than Andre Ward.
Yeah, he has a big push. He got all the HBO. Remember, Ward has been inactive over the last 5 years. So he's not in the public spotlight like people think he is or try to. Well, they kind of contradict themselves because they say, oh, Andre Ward can't even sell out in Oakland, but now he's getting a hometown decision in a state that he's not even from. His first time ever fighting in Vegas.
Exactly. But if you look at it, I'm pretty sure these judges are very familiar with these two fighters.
Yes.
Sometimes they look at tape to understand who these fighters are and how they fight so they know how effective or what's effective and ineffective between these two fighters. And at that point, they look at who did the better work.
Right.
And because all these were so close, you kind of have to give them this because these two might have said Ward, this one might have said Kovalev, or these ones would have said Kovalev, and this one would have said Ward. The important thing is they had the same.
They came out with the same score.
They came out with the same. So it's not like if it was across the board, it would have been fishy. But because they came out with the same score,
but a different way.
you can't really argue as much.
Yeah.
It's not a robbery. It's a close fight. It's not a bad decision. It's a controversial one.
Yeah. And like Rob said, if you feel Kovalev won, you're really not crazy to think that.
Right.
If you think Ward won, you're not crazy to think that. They got to do it again.
Now,
but I do want to add on one thing talking about the scores. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, this is why people watch MMA because blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm going to have to stop you right there. First off, all the commissions use the exact same judges.
That's right.
But because you actually don't watch MMA, you don't know that. And they actually just say UFC.
Yeah.
They don't even know the whole sport of MMA.
Bellator, World Series of Fighting. Come on, man.
It's Titan. It's hundreds of. That's not really not the point.
Moving on.
The point is they all use the same judges, and then they say like, so those same judges are giving the same decisions in MMA. And if you really were watching MMA all the time, you know that they do some bad decisions over there too.
Oh yeah.
So that really is an invalid argument. Just because the guy that you were rooting for didn't win, or you feel that the wrong guy got the decision, it's not a robbery. Especially if you're like, oh, I scored the fight a draw. Kovalev got robbed. That makes no sense.
Now, the other thing is this whole myth, you got to take the chance. You have to do, it's almost like you have to work extra hard to take or win a match and take the belts. No, he's the champ. But when you step into that ring, you're not wearing belts.
Yeah. In order to take the belt from the champ, you have to win more rounds than the champ. That is it. You have to mathematically come out with a higher score than him or knock him out. And vice versa for the champion. You either have to knock out your challenger or win more rounds. You have to prove that you deserve to keep your belts.
And each round is scored individually. You can't go by the marks on the face at the end of the fight. Some people mark up worse than others. Some people don't mark up at all. Some people cut very easily off a jab. So you can't go only by the facial look at the end of the fight. Hey, Andre Ward gets marked up pretty easy, and he has the greatest differential in one of the greatest differentials in
plus minus
and punches landed. And if I don't know if he was watching, but I believe someone was bleeding from the nose and with Kovalev.
Yeah.
So you can't always look at the damage because that only tells the aftermath of the fight or where they got marked up. But again,
and most of that damage came early in the fight.
Also, again, individual rounds. You can't just go by emotions. Yes, there's momentum, but that has more to do with the confidence and the rhythm of the fighter throughout the fight, how it ebbs and flows, how it goes ups and down. Not with the emotion of the judges. Because at that point, they could, a round that someone wins, they could be emotional because that the other person, the other fighter had a good round before that, so they may say, oh, well, I'm still riding high on the second round, so I think he should get the third round, even though it was a clear difference in scoring.
And what happened in
that round. So you can't go by emotion. Each individual round is scored separately. So that's what we have to look at. That's the only thing. That's why these people are professional judges. This is why they get paid to do what they do as non-biased judges. If you wanted to see a robbery, you should have watched the main undercard, the co-main event with Maurice Hooker and Perez. That was a robbery. Maurice Hooker should have lost just about every round in that fight, and Darius Perez got robbed.
Yes, that is the definition of a robbery. This was just a really close, controversial fight.
That's right.
Now, what happens next? They got to do it again.
We got to see it again.
Yes, Kovalev has a rematch clause, and he, as a confident, proud man, rightfully feels that he was wrong. No one's disagreeing with that. So, he has to go in there and on the next time, either prove that he was wrong by winning a decision, staying consistent through the 12 rounds, or finish what he did in the second round and knock Ward out.
So it's interesting to see how that happen. He's going to. The immediate rematch clause is out there. I think they will try to make that happen. But knowing HBO and the fact that Adonis Stevenson is just kind of out there talking crap, saying he's the king, but he has a fight scheduled with possibly Eleider Alvarez after Eleider Alvarez has his tune-up fight. So does he forego Alvarez, which would be his mandatory defense, and go straight to Ward? Or does he wait till after Ward and Kovalev 2? Or do they try to set up the fight and build the fight again by giving 2 interim matches to Ward and Kovalev, then setting it up for the fall, winter, like this year?
I think they're going to go straight back into it.
And I would love to see that.
Because, like I said, I was kind of low-key obsessed with it. So I watched the post-fight pressers too, and Kathy Dude was like, look, I'm not going to let any other fight happen. Kovalev is going to have his rematch. Now, what needs to happen in the rematch for him to win? One, he's going to have to work on the inside instead of trying to tie Ward up. That was the mistake he made for a majority of the fight until probably like the 12th round is when he started returning body punches to Ward. He worked from the outside to the body, but even then he kind of abandoned that later on in the fight.
That's right.
So he has to have a consistent body attack, like Ward had a consistent body attack. And 2, he has to work on that conditioning because he was visibly tired going down the stretch to the point where the 11th round, Ward actually knocked him over in a clinch.
And he kind of crumpled to the floor.
Yeah, and you could see the body language in the corner. He would go over there and he would slump. Every single round, Ward was the first guy off the stool. That not only shows you his conditioning, but he was trying to play psychological games like you're not in better shape than me. So Kovalev has to improve his conditioning and remember to stick to the game plan. So they have to go back to the drawing board, figure out how to cut the ring off for the full 12 rounds and not just the first 3 or 4, and he has a better shot. For Ward, he's going to have to learn how or get back to timing Kovalev's jab a little bit earlier. He had trouble with it in the beginning of the fight, but later on he started to get it better, but he has to get the timing so he can tune his lead left hook to be more effective in the rematch.
Also, I would like to see him start a little bit faster. Now, also, I believe Kovalev is going to have to increase his conditioning so he can take up his work rate.
Yeah.
Because if he can keep the higher work rate like he did in the first 3 to 4 rounds, going into the second half of the fight, he can make it even more interesting and it would be more effective aggression. With Ward, I think he finally got a taste of what real power is in the 175-pound division. I think he goes back and works on that with Mackie Shieldstone, especially hand and foot speed. But I think he needs to become a little bit nastier, a little bit earlier, and try his best to impose his will and land on Kovalev because he knows what Kovalev's power feels like. I think he needs to get to the point where he can instill a little bit more power, especially making that right hand happen from a better angle instead of falling for that 1-2 again that caused knockdown.
Yeah, and I believe he's capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if Kovalev can improve his conditioning that much in a one-fight span.
Especially with the way he throws and how he moves, because he puts so much on his punches that he can punch himself out.
Yeah, and that's pretty much one of the factors. It was the punching out because as Ward started to move a lot more, he started to whiff at air a lot more, and with him throwing so hard, that made him tired. In addition to all of the wrestling, trying to hold Ward back, Ward was doing his fair share of holding as well, but it was in Kovalev's game plan to completely negate the inside, and that's what we want you guys to see. If you're watching, a lot like even Jim Lampley was like, oh, Ward's holding while Kovalev has him in a double underhook. It looked like he was about to give him the pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
But that was in his game plan. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think he has to mix that in with some body punches, which we said in the preview video.
That's right.
Rip a few body punches, then grab him.
Also, And please, I don't know what some people are watching. Ward's legs are not gone. He showed that.
Definitely showed that.
Also, he doesn't look slower, as people will say. He looks slow. No, he didn't. He was just up there, up against a guy who has great timing.
Yes, and underrated speed.
And also, Andre Ward has fought 3 times this year for the first time in almost, 5 years?
Yeah.
So his activity is much greater as well. So he's a lot more polished. He's a lot more comfortable with being in the ring. So that's why the next one, the rematch, is going to be even more interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking forward to that. This video's gone on long enough. So we'll talk about Lomachenko Walters in a separate video, because that's going to be a very good fight that's going to accompany the replay of Kovalev Ward. So if you haven't seen it again, or if you want to watch it again, it will come on before Lomachenko Walters.
And you will see the scorecards as the fight goes on and see how they scored real time.
Yeah. So that's it for this video, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Leave your thoughts below. If you're not a subscriber, now is your time to do so. Thank you. You can catch us on any of our social networks. The links are also below, right under where you can get these nice What Is Your Fight t-shirts.
That's right.
Any questions, you can hit us up in the comment section below on any of our social media, in our email, and we'll get back to you, get you in the mailbag. Shout out to my boy Lions and Truth, because he asked what we thought was going to happen in the rematch.
That's right.
That's what we just discussed. And I told him that we would, because I'm a man of my word.
And most importantly, keep it respectful to us and to each other.
Yes. And we'll see you guys in the next video. And until then, fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is come at a cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane, I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.